Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Today our program is about entrepreneurs, what it takes to keep going. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program on your time and your schedule with the Rich Dad Radio app. And also all of our programs are archived at Rich Dad Radio. And we're now going to the most popular part of our program. It's called Ask Robert, and you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at richdadradio.com. And our guest today are Ken McElroy, Rich Dad Advisor on Real Estate, founder of MC Companies, website mccompanies.com, author of the ABCs of Real Estate Investing. For those who want to know about real estate, that's where you start. The Advanced Guide to Real Estate Investing. And also Darren Austin, he's the CEO of Jet Set Magazine. Kenny and I write for Jet Set. It's a great publication, and it fits our target market of the Rich Dad Company. So, and also my sweetheart, Kim. So, Melissa, what's the first question you have for us? Ask Robert.
Our first question today comes from Mason in Houston, Texas. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The question is, how do I maintain financial security during the startup phase of my business?
That's a legitimate question, but I'll just give you my answer. You don't stop. Just keep going. In my first startup of my nylon on Velcro wallet business, I would work all week, and then I'd go down to Aloha Swap Meet and stand there and sell stuff, sell all my belongings and raise cash and go back and keep going. Then it keeps knocking on doors and raising more capital. How about you, Kenny?
It's a great question. I don't know that I ever feel financially secure. I mean, well, because whenever
it's a great motivator.
It is a great motivator. Yeah. I understand the question completely, and I think a lot of people that come out, from they have a paycheck, that is a very legitimate question. But I think once you make that leap, you just got to understand that from month to month, from year to year, that might just always be there.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the mindset. I mean, what you're saying is it sounds like the mindset, financial security is the mindset of an employee who's used to the paycheck. I mean, there was no financial security, I don't think, in a startup.
Right, and every time I made a little money, this is my own personal experience, I was always trying to reinvest it into something new or a new business, and so then again, I had financial security issues on that business. So
you have a wife.
Yeah. Right.
How did Laura handle those stress?
She's still going through it. No, I basically, I can't really run a lot of the things by her before. I have to kind of do it during and after,
Yeah.
But she's been
a
great.
Wife, man.
Yeah,
she's
been great.
Puts up with you.
She's been
with
great.
The kids.
Yep.
So Darren Austin is the CEO of Jet Set Magazine. What advice do you have somebody who needs financial security before they become an entrepreneur?
Wow, for me that's a tough one because I didn't have any financial security, and I'm a big risk taker. So with me, I was just all in, and I believed in myself. I knew I could sell myself to get the business going, to be able to support it, and I didn't worry about security at the time. I just believed that I could do it.
Because you were all in. So maybe Mason is not all in at this point. Maybe he's got one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat.
When you told your mom and dad you were traveling around with me and I had no job, what did they say?
Well, first of all, they.
I can only imagine what went through their head.
Do we want to hear this?
No, it was when we were flat broke, we were struggling, and we had nothing, and Mom would call, and I'd start crying.
That's a good intro.
There we go.
And I'd agree with Kenny. It almost never ends because I think that's what keeps us going. I think when somebody finds security, that's like sitting on the lily pad and feeling secure.
Well, that's when they get comfortable,
Yes.
And they say when you start to make a lot of money, I mean, even Jim Collins says, the enemy of great is good. Like when you become good at something, then, I don't know, it just takes the fire out of your belly.
Right. So it's a great question, and I don't think we have an answer for it, but my word is I just kept going day to day. Like I said, I was at the swap meet on the weekends selling stuff. I'd actually buy stuff from somebody else and resell it just to make a few dollars to go back and survive. Day to day, paying rent, paying employees, financing product, paying insurance. It just never stopped, but that's how I got smarter.
Well, it goes back to when we had nothing and living in Southern California, and we rented an apartment for $1,200 a month. How they rented that to us, I have no idea. We had no income, nothing, and they rented us, and so that propelled us to make $1,200 a month to pay for the rent. That's how our business started.
It
was a good motivator.
That's a great motivator. Next question, Melissa.
Our next question comes from Mia in Miami, Florida. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. How do I deal with the skepticism and criticism of family and friends over my decision to become self-employed? My family is very important to me.
I don't have an
Good
answer
question.
for that because I don't care what my family thinks of me. No, it's tough. Kenny, what do you want to say?
It's like being in a foreign country. You know, when I go home and talk to my brother or, you know, my parents about, you know, my parents grew up and thinking, you know, differently. And so, you know, I'm just in a completely different world. I can't talk to them. The numbers are so much bigger. I remember telling my dad that I lost $250,000. And I swear that became the focus of our conversation for a long time because that was way more than they even had in savings. And so it's just they just can't fathom the conversation.
And I would say, too, to Mia, that don't take business advice from your family and friends, especially if they're not supporting you. Look for mentors and look for people who are doing what you want to do. Because oftentimes if the family member, like you're saying, Ken, if they're not on the same mindset and they don't understand entrepreneurship, they're going to tell you how risky it is and how you're going to fail and you're going to make mistakes and all of this stuff. So be careful who you take your advice
and they
from.
love you. They're just worried about you.
Yeah.
So, Darren, how did you handle it when you were your wife when you were so young?
It was tough. Not really family. I guess, you know, my dad, my mom, you know, they believed in me. You know, they knew from a young kid that when I set my mind to something, I was going to make it happen. So I never really got that from family. And to be honest with you, I never talked about what I was going to do before I did it. So I didn't have people, you know, criticize me or being skeptical.
And I'll just end with this idea. My rich dad told me I was an idiot. And he says, I'll never give you any money.
Might be something to that.
I mean, it is because my family does support it. And my dad gave me $100,000, which I gave to Stanley, my accountant, and Stanley ran off with it. So my rich dad was correct. I am an idiot. But that's how I learn. And
we finally paid that off. I remember we had to pay that off, yes.
But again, I'll say the biggest thing is that you have the product, you have people, and you have problems. And all business is people and problems. So next question, Melissa.
Our next question comes from Lewis in Baton Rouge. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Says, I hear you talking about failing and losing money several times over. My question is, how do you start over or get funding once you've lost it all? Isn't it true that the banks won't give you the loan if you have a bank account that's standing at zero or bad business credit?
I would say that's true. Yeah. I just learned how to raise capital, which is a good and bad thing. It's just going to raise more money.
I'll tell you, that's a phenomenal question because I think that before you lose money, that is how you think. But what my experience has been, I mean, I remember having a conversation with you, Robert, you know, when we first met each other, when you found out that I had lost everything, like the credibility between you and I went up. Because, and that happens a lot with partners. You know, they're like, have you lost everything? And I'm more afraid of the person who hasn't, believe it or not.
Amen.
I really am.
Amen. Because you don't know how they're going to respond.
Right. Have they been resilient? Have they bounced back? I mean, I have people ask me that question. Have you ever lost money? And I say yes. And then we have a conversation about it. And it's an important, you have to go through it, I think. And
if you think losing money is your biggest problem, I don't think you're prepared for this. Like I said, it's people, problems, and product. And when you lose money, when other people come after you, that's when you find out who your friends are. And that's more vicious than anything else.
Well, that's the whole point of this program, was about how your failure breeds your success. And he's already afraid, Lewis is already afraid of failing, and like that he's going to get wiped out. And if that's the forefront of his thinking, he's probably not going to make it.
And when we're looking at that juice company, I looked around at the partners and said, oh, yeah, we're all friends. I said, for today.
yeah.
You know, you don't know. And I could tell none of them had lost any money. They didn't know what it's like to not be able to feed the kids. And that's when you find out who your partners are. Any comments there, Darren?
Yeah, when I lost my first company, I actually ended up completely negative. So I started with below a zero balance. And, you know, with that, I mean, didn't have any bank funding or anything like that. But again, you know, I believe that I could do it and I could make money on my own to start the business and then put everything into place once it got going.
Right. So I think the thing for Kim and I is that we could sell. You know, Kim worked with network marketing and she learned how to sell and we can sell. So we had no money. We just want to cut another deal. We said, this is what we're going to do in all this. I found more investors, sold more products and all this stuff, raised money. I think one of the biggest things we did was that we paid everything first. We never paid our bills. That was really, Betty the bookkeeper went nuts. We were living in Oregon, and we had $1,000 coming in. We owed $10,000. I said, Betty, we're not paying our creditors, right? She
Yeah,
got nuts.
we had a list of everybody we owed money to, and we went through that whole process of putting that list together, made sure that everybody got paid back every
Eventually.
penny. Yeah, they all
But
did.
not having money was like having Nazis chasing us. And we got smart and creative
You
and
get
not
smart.
lazy.
You get
Because
smart.
that was what really drove us, was terror, fear. So once again, thank you for those questions. I hope they answered some of your questions or allayed some of your fears. But if fear overwhelms you, don't be an entrepreneur, because it's what motivates success, and failure should motivate success. So once again, you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at Rich Dad Radio. I want to thank Ken McElroy, partner, Rich Dad Advisor, founder of MC Companies, website mccompanies.com, and Darren Austin, CEO of Jet Set Magazine, and website is jetsetmag.com. And thank my sweetheart Kim, and thank all of you for listening.
You've been listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki. To learn more about the good news and bad news about money, go to richdadradio.com.
This has been a presentation of the Rich Dad Radio Network. Please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Android. And for more information, go to www.richdad.com.